All right, everybody, welcome back. We're diving deep today. You ready?
Always ready to dive in.
We're tackling communication today, specifically how to make people actually want to listen to you.
Oh, that's a good one. Everyone wants to be heard, right?
Exactly. And we found this fascinating piece. It's called It
Hmm. Catchy title.
is, and it translates to how to speak so that everyone wants to listen. Pretty straightforward. But some of the tips are anything but straightforward. I was pretty
Oh,
surprised.
yeah. Like what?
Well, take this whole idea of using honesty as a sales tactic. It says, and I'm paraphrasing here, that sometimes admitting your flaws can actually make the good stuff seem even better.
That is interesting. Makes you think. Is that like reverse psychology or something?
Kinda,
Yeah.
but it's more about managing expectations, I think.
Right. You're not trying to trick anyone. It's about framing. When you acknowledge a flaw, you're basically highlighting the contrast, making the positive aspects stand out more.
Okay, so like instead of just listing all the amazing things about something, you throw in a little but.
Exactly. It's like, this shirt might wrinkle easily, but it's incredibly soft and breathable.
You're upfront about a potential downside, but then you hit them with the good stuff.
Yep. And the source actually uses a great example about selling, well, vegetables.
Oh yeah, tell me about that.
So the idea is that if you're selling produce and some of it isn't the freshest, you actually tell people that
Wait, really? Why would you do that?
because it makes the fresh stuff seem even more desirable.
Hmm.
Think about it. You're at a farmer's market, right? You see two vendors. One is all, my vegetables are the best, the most perfect, you won't find better. And the other one's like, hey, some of these tomatoes aren't the prettiest, but they're packed with flavor. And these over here, perfect, ripe, ready to go.
Okay, yeah, I'd be way more likely to buy from the second vendor.
Right. They seem more honest and you trust their judgment more. So those perfect tomatoes, they seem even more perfect by comparison.
It's like you believe them more because they're not trying to hide anything. I like that. But do you think this only works for sales?
Not at all. This principle can apply to pretty much any type of communication.
Okay, so how could I use this in like everyday life?
Imagine you're giving a presentation or even just having a conversation. Instead of only focusing on your strengths, try saying something like, I might not have all the answers, but I'm committed to finding solutions.
So you're being upfront about a potential limitation.
Right. And it builds credibility because you're not pretending to be perfect. And it also emphasizes your dedication to achieving that positive outcome.
Hmm, that's a really good way to think about it. Okay, so honesty check. What else does this piece talk about?
Well, something we often forget, nonverbal communication, how our body language can actually say way more than our words sometimes.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I've definitely had conversations where someone said they were fine, but their face was telling a whole different story.
Exactly. It's like we're sending these extra messages without even realizing it. Our posture, eye contact, even just tiny little fidgets, they all add layers of meaning.
Yeah, and those messages can either reinforce what we're saying or totally contradict it.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
like when someone says, I'm listening, but they're constantly checking their phone. Their words are saying one thing, but their actions are screaming something completely different.
Oh, for sure. And it goes both ways, too. If you're trying to convince someone of something, but your arms are crossed and you're avoiding eye contact.
Your body language is basically saying, don't believe a word I'm saying.
Huh. It's so true. So what's the takeaway here? Do we all need to become, like, body language experts?
Not necessarily. It's more about just being aware of our nonverbal cues. What message are we sending without even realizing it? Are we making eye contact, slouching, fidgeting? All these things matter.
It's like being intentional with our bodies, just like we are with our words. Okay, so we've got honesty, we've got body language.
Yeah.
What else is in this communication toolkit?
The piece also highlights the importance of, well, structure, like knowing how to tell a good story, and also the power of summarizing, especially at the end of a meeting, driving the main point home.
Oh, like repeating the main takeaway so everyone remembers?
Exactly. It's about clarity. You want to make sure everyone's on the same page, and having a framework for your message helps with that, whether it's a story, a presentation, even just a casual conversation. And repetition. That's key for memory. That's how jingles and slogans get stuck in our heads.
That's true. Okay, but isn't there a risk of sounding too rehearsed or robotic if you overstructure everything? How do you find that balance?
It's a good question. It is a balance. It's like structure is the foundation, but it shouldn't stifle spontaneity. It's like imagine a jazz musician. They have a deep understanding of music theory, but they also improvise and bring their own style to it, right?
I like that analogy. So it's not about sticking to a script. It's about having that foundation and then being flexible.
Exactly.
Okay, so structure check. What else?
Purpose and empathy. The source really emphasizes knowing why you're communicating in the first place and putting the listener first.
That makes sense. Like, don't just talk for the sake of talking, have a reason.
Exactly. Ask yourself, what impact do you want to have? What do you want the listener to take away from this?
And how can I say it in a way that resonates with them, with what they need?
Right. And the source also talks about finding common ground, revealing flaws, and even just smiling more often.
That's all about building connection.
Right. Absolutely. Think about a time when someone's genuineness, even their flaws, made you feel closer to them. Vulnerability can be powerful when we let ourselves be seen, imperfections and all. It allows others to do the same. It creates connection.
Yeah. Okay, one last thing from the source. Controlling anger. How important is that in communication?
Huge. Anger can be such a powerful emotion and it can easily derail a conversation.
So what do you do if you feel yourself getting angry in the middle of a conversation?
Take a deep breath. Pause before you respond. Create that little bit of space for yourself to regain control. And instead of lashing out, try using I statements. You know, I feel frustrated when, or I need. That way you're expressing your feelings and needs clearly and respectfully.
Great advice. So if we had to boil all of this down to one key takeaway for our listeners, what would it be?
I think it's that successful communication requires thoughtfulness. It requires empathy. And it requires a genuine focus on connecting with your audience, not just broadcasting at them.
It's about that two-way street, that back and forth.
Yeah, exactly.
Well said. So as you go about your day-to-day, think about what one small change you could make to become a more engaging communicator. Maybe it's being more mindful of your body language, or pausing before reacting when you're angry, or admitting a flaw to highlight a strength.
Or even just asking yourself, why am I communicating this?
Exactly. Any of those things. Every little bit counts. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.
See ya.